So thank you so much today for joining us. We're having a session today on excellence in the full ML lifecycle. I know it's fair to say that we have officially seen a huge upsurge in the number of people who are looking at ML for their business, how it really impacts on what they're doing. And really this session is looking at how can you sort of really know what best of breed is in that sort of full life cycle. So from inception and thinking about what you're perhaps going to run ML on and the data you have, right through to how you then run those models as kind of long-term strategic assets. So today I am joined by Dimitrios Gontzes, who is our head of data science, and Phil Basford, who is our head of solution engineering, both who are our gurus in this area and have worked across our plethora of sort of customers of all sizes and all different industries across multiple use cases, really understanding about what great looks like in this cycle and how to really make sure that you get the best success out of any ML implementation that you do. So with that in mind, I'm going to kick off with Dimitrios. So Dimitrios, let me make you the presenter.
Perfect. And hello, everyone.
I just wanted to really sort of, I suppose, kick off with asking you, when we have customers come to us and say, right, I really want to start a project and think about how I can sort of, really take my first steps into ML, what is, the kind of the natural or the process that you've now found to be, the best and the most sort of successful for that company to go through to get the best result?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tam, for that. Right. So we've done this many times. So we've seen a little bit of a pattern kind of forming in the way that we operate and we operate with other customers. I think the very important first step is to know what you're doing, of course. So prioritize your use cases and choose the one that will give you the maximum value, hopefully with the minimum effort, because maybe it's a low-hanging fruit. And really refine and define what you're trying to do. After you've done that, the next best thing is to do a discovery work. So prototype your idea, create a first model, first pass if you want, and validate that assumption. Can you achieve what you need to with the technology that you have and the data that you have? And does it produce the right amount of value that you need to convince your stakeholders to plow through and invest more and really productionize your solution? And that's kind of like the delivery part of it. You deliver this business case that is so important in driving this into the future. After this, we see that most customers go into a first soft launch or perhaps an MVP. That's what we call the accelerate stage. And that's where we deploy the prototype that has been produced in order to start serving and start gaining that benefit from using your AI, because that's the dream, right? Starting to get that value. After that, you can go into a productionized phase. And that's where you add all the bells and whistles, all the ML ops sprinkles and goodness that comes with machine learning. And that's really when you do the heavy and difficult kind of like work. For example, automatic scaling or being able to monitor your models in real time and creating some visualizations or detecting drift of your models. That's where it lives. And of course, at the end of this, you will be able to enable your organization with these tools to actually get your organization to the next level and start embedding the value back to the business.
And just in terms of data, I know we get asked this question a lot. I mean, what data can actually ML be run on? Is there a certain amount you need? Is there different types of data, or kind of any data of any size is, all fair game and can be used?
Okay, very interesting and difficult question to answer without context, but my blanket response here is the more data, the better. Especially when you have very difficult use cases, for example, difficult optimization process, trying to find the best route or the next best action when it comes to customers, for example. You need a lot of data around your customers, around your processes. So the more you can get, the better. But having said that, my tip here and my advice is to don't start from scratch. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use already existing models, and AWS has so many of these existing models that you can leverage immediately. So only with a limited number of data and data rows or data sets, you can actually do some transfer learning and use a previously existing model to meet your needs. Of course, there are different types of data here. As you know, structured data, which is tabular, which is the bread and butter of data scientists, but there's also the unstructured data, so images, text, PDF, sound, all of these data sources are valid here, and I think they have great opportunity to unlock, especially at the hands of a capable data scientist.
Amazing. So basically, kind of, it's always worth checking, always worth asking. So whatever data you might have, there's probably something that's either already been done before, or that you can start to look at in a different way and start running some kind of just interim models on, so that you can really start to see if ML can work in your business.
Absolutely, and it's very important to remember that a good machine learning solution really starts with the data and extracting that signal, or getting those features, as we call them, from the data. So that's a very key point.
Brilliant. Okay. And so, I mean, you just mentioned there some of the different types of sort of data that we're seeing, images and PDF and text and speech and those sort of things. So have you seen anything kind of in the last year, just in terms of kind of innovation, where people are really using some of those new types of data sets to drive incredible value?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things that has really made me, left me speechless was people using images, specifically portraits and art, and using deep learning and I don't know if you know deepfake, which is a new kind of trend, making the portraits be able to move and talk back perhaps to museum visitors. What a fantastic idea, really, to engage with your end customers. So really, really exciting opportunities out there, but you don't need to go really, really far to actually see the innovation behind AI. We are doing at the moment, again, some computer vision project in the agriculture business. So being able to detect and count different crops and trees from aerial footage. Imagine, hectares and hectares of land, and being able to immediately count how many trees a farmer has, and their perhaps how much yield, how much of a certain product they can produce based on data and the images really of the farm.
So that's something, I mean, just from that alone, you'd think, gosh, what a kind of transformation for the agriculture industry if they were suddenly able to, from an aerial image, be able to understand exactly what amount of crop they've got in a field, its health,
the health of exactly,
what the yield's going to be, what different ones they've got, where they've got weeds, or whether where something maybe needs irrigation or something. And that's an incredible step forward, wouldn't it, for an industry like agriculture? What an amazing
and it shows really, exactly, and it shows really how these use cases can change the landscape of traditional businesses. So it's a very exciting place to be, and hopefully more of these use cases will pop up.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned the art world there as well. It just seems like, AI and ML, there's just no sort of barrier to entry for any industry. There always seems to be incredible value available when you start using some of these emerging technologies.
And thinking outside of the box, of course.
Of course, yeah. So talking of the technologies, you mentioned about computer vision, etc. What else kind of in the process that you've talked about? Is there sort of other technologies and innovations that you're seeing coming out that people could take advantage of?
Yes. So I think going back 2 or 3 years ago, the industry has just started playing around with these models and technologies. But now what we see is more sophisticated and more complex methodologies around it. We see better technology. AWS is a great example with so many new services that someone can leverage. what we see now is this sophistication, as I said, and kind of democratizing these. So anyone can start using these complex technologies and make them their own and make them fit into a business problem, so you can solve your problems faster and more efficiently. We also see the rise of ML ops, which is something that we are very, very passionate about, and I think Phil is also very passionate about. And another area is really the combination of human intelligence and artificial intelligence, really combine the best of the both worlds in order to go above and beyond the promise of AI and create something that is truly specific to a business and to a use case.
Oh, I guess that the specific nature of a model is exactly what business is looking for, because they've got individual insights that they're really trying to draw out. So I guess anything that helps you really hone down their their needs and requirements is always a benefit, isn't it?
Exactly, and you should never really throw these away, because your organization knows all these things. So use that to teach the machine faster. That's the idea.
Yeah, amazing. Brilliant. All right, Dimitris, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. You touched on ML ops there as well, which is perfect segue into Phil. So obviously, Dimitrios is our guru at getting us to the point where those incredible models being created. I'm now going to bring Phil in, because he is our specialist. Once those models have been created, it then really bringing them to life, embedding them into a business, setting out a foundation that allows you to really drive the power and the benefit of those models. And as I said earlier, kind of making them strategic assets for your business. So Phil, if I can sort of start with that, really, just in terms of a process, as I said, we've got to the point where Dimitrios's team have sort of created these incredible models. How does a business then actually get them using in a real life business, day-to-day world, and make sure that they're getting the best insights and the best, benefits from those models?
Yeah, thanks, Tabs, and hi, everybody. Hope you're having a good summit. So kind of, the stage we take over is taking those models and getting them into the heart of your business, and that means aligning and integrating with typically a business process. So the models are trying to achieve a business outcome, and the engineering behind it is the process of building into that business process. And now that can be anything from real-time thousands of predictions a second to predict something that needs it, to more kind of batch one-off time-related things that you want to do, like every hour or overnight, that kind of thing. Or it can be also down to the edge and onto some of those connected devices, like ones that are probably drones flying over crops to identify trees. So that process of getting the model out of the notebook, the data science world, and into the business is where ML ops starts, and we call that the embedding stage. And then the next exciting stage, and I think most people would have kind of known this, and it's kind of been transparent to most people, but is when the models start to learn on what's happening now and keep up to date on what's happening, and that continuously learning process based on a feedback loop where you are taking events that happen now and improving the model based on that, not just your historic data, for example, your previous 6 months stock, but actually what's in your warehouse now, or that kind of thing is where also ML ops comes in. And it's about putting together things for your data and keeping your data up to date, but then automated processes around retraining those models when they need to be retrained to get them up to date and to keep giving you that value to your business. And then kind of the thing that kind of allows you to do that is kind of the next stage, which is monitoring your model. So I typically look at that as a 360 view of system performance, which is historically what that in computing, what we looked at, things like CPU, but also model performance in terms of how accurate your model is today. The KPI it's affecting your business, the most powerful thing is some actual measurement on your business that it's affecting, and you can see the impact of the model. And then the other main area is the cost of running that model and keeping an eye on that, and bring that view together as a 360 view of the model then allows you to then respond to change. Okay, and change is quite important. So things like COVID pandemic hits, it can have a significant impact on the behavior and the characteristics of your data. So you need to go back, retrain and relook at that data. So it will be about how to do it automatically and then put controls around and being able to bring that into your business effectively. So it's that monitoring stage is the next kind of stage, and that's kind of where we look at is embed, automate, and monitor your models.
And then once a business might, start with 1-2 models just to kind of get the feel and trying to understand whether they can really derive, value out of ML. And I guess then, like we've seen with a lot of our customers, is once they've really understood what ML can do for them, they want to build more and more models and add to that. So what's a kind of, I guess, a natural foundation that a business would put in place to allow them to kind of, really scale and build out as the future comes to them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'd always advocate getting a model live first, getting the insights, get your first step into ML. But after that, you're right, there's a lot more things you need to do to think about how you're going to scale that for the long term and evolve individual models, host many models, and how you can start using assets between models. So to do that, you I look at that as a layer of cakes, building up, and you need to get each one good to get the icing, which on top, the cherry on top, that is your model. It's working really well. So that starts initially at the bottom layer, and that's the infrastructure. And this is obviously the AWS Summit today. So what we're thinking about there is making sure you have access to the best of breed hardware, the latest technology, which can give you even better ways of producing models. Your secure infrastructure, so controlled access to your network, to your data, that kind of thing, that comes through that core infrastructure layer, and also that outward connectivity into some of your legacy systems, or bringing in some of the stuff from real-time events coming in from things like IoT and that kind of thing. So that's your infrastructure layer, and that needs to be put in place and get that right. And then on top of that, we call it the data foundation layer, and that is a lake house, a data lake or data warehouse, the place where you're going to keep all that data. Now, for your first use case, you're going to probably have a small set of your overall data that's available in your business or organization. But as time grows, you will want to add more data, more data, more data, and you want to be able to track that effectively. You want meta around it. You want to understand where it came from, lineage, that kind of thing. And then what it does is allow you to build more models, but as more data comes available, you can actually probably go back to existing models and think, okay, I've got new data, gives me new features and new insights, and that then allows me to progress. So it's very important to get a good, strong data foundation, because that gives you the ability to do models. And then from an ML ops point of view, we're going to think how we can scale this and control this. So it's great having that model, but if we're doing critical work, what we want to do is be able to do things like have multiple environments, your dev and experiment environment, then your QA and your pre-production environment, and finally your live production environment that's having the real world impact. And you want to segregate those responsibilities and have them quite laid out and thought through, so that you can control. Your data scientists can work on the next exciting iteration of the model, whilst you've got the existing model live and producing the results for your business. So we want to spend time on that aspects. And then to bring it all together, you need to think about governing your models. So knowing when models were produced, how they were created, what data they use, what layers of the cake it brought together, which allows you to then understand when those models were last updated, if they needed updating, understand how they were produced, and give you the control and governance you need. And I suppose that's particularly important when you have hundreds of models, because you want to have maybe various squads of data scientists and ML engineers working on a specific project at a time. You want to provide that consistency and control. But also we're seeing through things like the EU proposed regulation of AI in highly regulated markets that you have to provide some of that evidently back to the regulators and that kind of thing, to be able to understand how models and predictions were made, so that you can evidence that when asked to.
And then in terms of, I mean, obviously there's a lot of processes there. Where does kind of MLOps sit within an organization in terms of department, or what are the skills that you need to really run this kind of process effectively?
Yeah, so I bring it back to like a culture, collaborative team effect. So I think you still need your great, strong data scientists. They're the heroes and the rock stars here. They're the ones playing with the models and bringing you, hopefully, value and new insights. But beyond that, you need people to look after all those layers of those cakes, and they have to be experts and specialists in their respective field. So if you're on the public cloud like AWS, you need people to be able to set up that cloud in the best practices, the most secure way, the most reliable way, the most fault tolerant way, be able to scale. So you need to have specialists that are cloud engineers. You then need data engineers to be able to bring in all those data, manage that data effectively for you. And then you're looking at DevOps and ML engineers to be able to do all the automation and monitoring of the models in production for you, and the retraining and in that aspect. So you need, in the end, you end up with quite a substantial team, but it's a team of specialists that have to bring to the whole and work collaboratively together.
And is it something where you'd say a business has to have all of those people in house, or can you bring some of them in from outside and outsource some of those skill sets?
Certainly, it depends what's available to you. We have customers that don't have any of that skills, and we go in and provide the whole, everything from top to bottom, left and right. We provide all of that skills for them. But we also have customers where we're going in, maybe they have a data science facility already in their company, and they've produced models, but maybe they're struggling with how to productionize them and how to scale and how to automate that kind of thing. And that's where you can use some of the other specialists that we have in terms of ML engineering and DevOps and cloud infrastructure to help accelerate your business, and also to make sure that those foundations are rock solid and will allow you to accelerate your use cases.
Amazing, okay, thank you. And obviously we're at the AWS Summit today, so just looking at something like this, and obviously what you've spoken about before in terms of the process, is what are the kind of key AWS technologies and tools that they have that are really making this, open to everybody and enabling the success of kind of MLOps generally?
Yeah, so there's the whole of AWS obviously pulls together on this, but the two key areas that you want to look at is the data and data analytics foundation layer. So you're looking at, in that area, you're looking at things like Redshift, Athena, S3, EMR, Glue, that kind of thing. So you're looking at, that's the kind of the data layer and the technology involved there. So, and AWS offer now a complete suite there for the data engineers to be able to get the data in. And then for the kind of the data scientists and the ML ops people, it's about SageMaker predominantly. And SageMaker historically has been for the data scientists. It allows them to run their notebook and do their experiments, and that's fantastic. But now, for me as ML ops engineer, it also has additional capabilities. So you've got things like SageMaker pipelines to help you implement those automations. You've got Model Monitor that keeps in track of some of those accuracies and all those things. And you've got things like Clarifai that can detect bias and issues with your model that you want to look at. And then for the actual inference, they offer you a whole range of ways of deploying your model in SageMaker now. So you've got real-time endpoints to do thousands of requests per second, and then you've also got batch transform to do batches every 50 minutes, every hour, overnight, whatever's your flavor, really, whatever you need for your requirements of your business. So SageMaker now offers you a complete ML suite to do all aspects of it.
And finally, we've had a question actually just about how many models can you run at one time? I know you were just saying there about the amount of data you can put through. So is there a limit, or literally just dependent on the business's needs?
It's literally dependent on the business needs, and we have experience of people running hundreds, if not thousands, of models in production at one time and being able to maintain them. So you can run as many models effectively as you want, but just make sure that they're all delivering you value and you're looking after them.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks. I've had another question, actually, Dimitris, I'm going to ask this to you if that's okay.
Yep.
Is just about sort of, are we seeing anything out of COVID, or are there any sort of trends or particular models that we're seeing where businesses are taking a particular focus on something, during or post-COVID?
Okay, yeah, that's actually a very big subject here. I'll keep it short. I think we've seen out there specifically companies really getting wanting to know more about how their customers behave in such a difficult period, specifically around how can they help them, how can they alleviate perhaps some of the stress, how can they support them when it comes to debt and debt management. So a utility company might have some customers that might be struggling with their debt during these periods. So something that we've seen quite a lot, and we've worked with clients to produce, is being able to predict what is the next best action that will help the customer, but also help the business make sure that it's on top of the debt that is being accrued. But on another scale, COVID is something that has affected people's lives. And of course, their lives, we can take a snapshot through the data that people are collecting and companies are collecting. So what I'm saying here is you can use the data and retrain the model in order to be able to understand what is happening with your customers. And we see that quite a lot, retraining the models more often nowadays, because we just need to be closer to the customer behavior and how they are interacting with the organizations.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. Yeah, really interesting. Thank you both. That's been amazing. I mean, it's such a good sort of, as you say, a nice snapshot of just really kind of the end-to-end process and really how businesses are using that today. Just in the interest of time, we're coming to the end of our session. So I wanted to ask both of you just for your kind of takeaway for our audience today of, and I'll start with you, Dimitrios, as you're on screen. If you can give us kind of what's the kind of one tip you'd like people to leave with today?
Yeah. So a lot of organizations start with very big dreams, which is great. That's fantastic. But my hint here is start small. You don't have to boil the ocean. Start with a simple, easy, high valuable use case and take it all the way to the end. So you create, the path and the ground for what is going to happen later. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Be a pirate and, take the great learning from other projects, other research papers, and use that, accelerate your discovery like that. That will get you very far, really quickly, and with minimum cost.
Amazing. So keep it simple to start with, prove the value, and then you can start to grow as you learn.
From that, exactly.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And then Phil, can I ask you, what's your key takeaway for our audience today?
Yeah, so mine's the 4 C's. So let's start with the first two: culture and collaboration. They're absolutely key. You can have the best models and everything in the world, but you need to be able to collaborate and work together as a consistent unit at delivering that model and unlocking its value. So you need to invest in the culture and the collaboration between the data scientists and all skill sets within your team to be able to really deliver those models and to scale the delivery of those models. And then next is create. So ML is a creative, experimental process. You need to embrace that, and as engineers, you need to recognize that. But what you need to do is allow the data scientists to be able to do that creation and be able to work on the next iteration model. So you need to think about through that. And then the last of the 4 C's is control. So once they have done that, what you need to do is the engineering and the control and the rigor around how those models are then deployed and then monitored and retrained, etc. So it's culture, collaboration, create, and control.
So as long as we remember C, we should be okay.
Pretty much.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you both so much for today, and really, really interesting stuff there. I just wanted to encourage everybody, well, first of all, say thank you to you all for coming, and then also encourage everyone to stay in touch with us. We're an AWS Premier Partner. We're also a leader in kind of the ML space. We've got lots of fantastic content on our stand, so please do go there. We've just released a new MLOps guide, which really goes into some of the things that Phil was talking about and helps you understand just some of the imperatives around running a successful MLOps process. We also like to offer everybody today a complimentary ML workshop. So whether you're at the beginning of the journey that Dimitrios is talking about, or you're really now looking at that sort of moving into production stage that Phil was talking about, we have a complimentary workshop we'd like to offer you. So we'll be emailing details of that out shortly. And of course, there are details there in the corner. So if you want to get in touch with us, we'd love to hear from you. As I said, we work with customers across many different areas, many different regions, as well as a whole plethora of industries on very, very interesting use cases. So anything you want to chat to us about, any thoughts you've got, we'd love to hear from you. And with that, I shall close the session and thank everybody for coming. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.